All right. Good evening, everybody. Commissioner Ace Coach 704 here. Primetime Elite League PEL Season 5 pre-draft show. And I have to admit that I'm pleasantly surprised at the growth and interaction we've had today. And it's really interesting to me that we had a lot of spirited conversation, a lot of competitive bidding and free agency, and a lot of good discussion in the chat about all those things. And I'll touch on that later. But we got to get started because I'm already a little behind, and we're going to kind of expedite this year, and we're not going to go through every position. I'm just going to kind of use the roster. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to think or hypothesize where these teams are going to pick or what they're going to pick in the upcoming draft here in a little less than an hour. So last year we talked about the Bears, and you look at Mitchell Trubisky, and you look, has he progressed enough to be the franchise quarterback for Chicago? In my opinion, he has not. I think now is the time that Chicago needs to go out and get a quarterback to supplement the weapons that they have on this roster. They've really drafted a lot of speed in the receiver position the past couple years, and they need a quarterback that can get the ball to those guys on a consistent basis. Jordan Howard's been one of the leading rushers in the PEL ever since we've started this Madden, and they got weapons, and they need to score. In the division they're in, they play with a lot of high-powered offenses, and they need to find a way to compete with those guys on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, he could use a boost at the linebacker position, at corner, and safety as well. All right, so looking at their picks, they got 8th pick in the draft, so they're going to have a chance to get a real good player. This will be a CPU pick because he will not be drafting tonight. You jump to the Bengals. The Bengals made the playoffs last year, got knocked out in the wild card round by the Dolphins, and I'd call it a minor upset because I thought he had a really, really good team and was going to make a statement. He actually won the Super Bowl in another league I saw the other day. So, he's a really good player, and he's really doing a good job in rebuilding this roster. But we quick look through it, see he's good at quarterback, good at running back with Mix, and he does a really good job with him. Definitely needs some receivers, although Tymarius Drake Aubrey is one of the best guys in the league. I expect the CPU to take a receiver he doesn't draft. And then, he's done a good job pretty much with the rest of the roster, scrolling through real quick. That Steven Talon guy he was leading the league in sacks for a period of time there. Maybe another D tackle, I could see that. The trade for Reddick was a good deal. He won linebacker of the year. Outside backer is definitely a concern. More corners. So he rebuilt the roster pretty well, but as you can see, he still has space to grow. No first round pick this year. First pick will be in the second round. All right, you go to the Bills. Tough game, lost in the divisional round to the eventual Super Bowl champ Browns. We went out and signed Von Miller to help our pass rush, and then we also signed Mr. Devontae Thompson because we needed a legit running back on the roster, and he's going to do everything. He's a 3-down back for us. What we need a tight end, but unfortunately this draft is not good at tight ends, so I'm looking for a tight end right now. Need some more depth at receiver, of course. Really about us, it's about depth in certain places. We got our ends definitely straightened out now. Casey's getting a little older, but he's still good. Pretty happy with the D tackles. Need some depth at linebacker. Like my starters pretty good. Corner's a good spot. And then the safety position, Trey White won DB of the year. He's went to 4 straight Pro Bowls, and Rudy Ford's done a good job, so we're pretty good there. And we have the 27th pick in the first round. Best available situation, to be honest. Not really looking at position, just taking whoever the best talent is on the board, and we'll get him in one way or another. Jump to the Broncos. Welcome to the new Broncos owner. Rome, I believe is his name. Glad to have you, especially in that division. Quick look through the roster. C.J. Beathard, of course, is the franchise quarterback there. He could use a running back, although Trevon Young does have some speed and ability. If you want to go that way, I'm not sure of his play style. Receiver, I could see, using a pick on a receiver. He does have Ebron, but you might want to get a little more speed there if there's a talented guy at his position. Buck's pretty good tight end. You scroll through that offensive line, you could use a little help at center, a little help at right tackle. D-line could definitely use some help. Although you could put these two guys at the end, depending on what kind of defense you play, you should be good there. A little help at D-tackle, a little old there. You go through linebackers, could use a little infusion of talent at linebacker for sure. If you're using this guy, Martinez, he's a pretty good user linebacker. You look at the DBs, not bad. Pretty good at corner still. Those guys are older, they're still pretty good. And you look at the safety position, you need some depth there. So there's a couple ways the Broncos can go for sure. And they're going to have a high pick, the 6th in the first round. They also have Minnesota's first, which is the 28th. So 2 picks in the first round. Broncos in a pretty good spot to get 2 good players tonight. And you jump to the Super Bowl champion Browns. You look at this roster and you're like, yeah, you better win the Super Bowl with these guys. He doesn't have a lot of needs, obviously. Pourchaire is really good, and the running backs are both good, Johnson and Reinhardt. The receivers are good. You can see them right there. Really doesn't need anything, to be honest. And Njoku at tight end is really good. And then his offensive line is what really makes it go. And then you look at these ratings, you see why they damn block their ass off. It doesn't make any sense. And then the D line is good also. Those guys really get after it. Linebacker, it's just a really good roster all around. And he's got depth at linebacker to trade. If you're looking for a linebacker, talk to the Browns. He's willing to trade him. And the secondary is really good also. So he's just going to be taking best player available throughout the whole draft. Don't give him any more picks. Thank God he doesn't have a second rounder. He does have the first, actually the last pick in the first round, number 32 overall. All right, Buccaneers are a CPU team. We won't talk about them. Cardinals. The Cardinals made a couple pretty good moves in free agency. That one right there, Bennett Goodwin at corner, it's a good move. Fox won the Rookie of the Year, so he's an improving quarterback. You go through the rest of it. Probably could use a running back because Johnson's getting older. Receivers are pretty good after being down for a little bit. That guy Pryor is one of his go-to guys. Could use an upgrade at tight end. And going through the line. Line is pretty good overall. I think you're all right there. I think D lineman, defensive end could use a little bit of help. Need depth at D tackle for sure. Linebackers are the bread and butter here for these guys. They're all pretty good. A little more depth at corner could be used. And then safeties are very good, as you can see right there. To help their roster, they got the 23rd and 24th pick in the first round, back-to-back picks. That 24th pick was in that Hassan Reddick deal, which worked out good for both teams. So we'll see what the Cardinals do tonight. All right, the Los Angeles Chargers lost in the AFC Championship game to the Browns. And there's a lively debate going on about that in chat. But you go through their roster, they don't need a lot. Gordon is still doing good at 29, and then you've got other guys ready to go behind him. If he chooses to use them. Pretty good at receiver, I would say. Good at tight end. Run a couple tight end offense there if you want to. Could use an upgrade at guard. That might be where he goes because he likes to run the football. Atachu won the I think the Defensive Lineman Award. Could use some depth at DN. He did sign Darius in free agency, who's still, pretty decent. And then linebackers, he uses these guys. a good bit, and they're in pretty good shape. Left outside linebacker could use an upgrade. Could use an upgrade at corner. He's been developing these guys for a couple years now. And then free safety, strong safety are pretty good. He does a good job in mixing and matching and how he uses those guys as well. He's got the 29th pick in the first round. He's used to picking low. He usually makes a good pick no matter where he is in the draft order. All right. The Chiefs, welcome to the new Chiefs guy. I don't know much about you, but I know the Browns, Ramon did bring him into the fold. So we are glad to have you on board. Where you go in the draft, definitely don't need a quarterback. Seamster's a pretty good running back. I think you're good there. Yeah, those receivers you definitely don't need any help there. Tight end is pretty good. You look through this line, you can see the previous Chiefs owner did a pretty good job in keeping this roster in order. He just couldn't sign everybody, of course, when you start paying all these guys. Maybe a little more depth at outside linebacker is the only thing I've seen so far. Oh, some corners, yeah. Although these two aren't bad, you need some depth at corner. Safety's good, yeah. So depth at corner and some linebackers, I would say. And then they have the 7th pick in the first round, so that's going to add to a pretty talented roster in the first place. So welcome, and you got a pretty good gig there. All right, the Colts. They've been knocking on the door of the playoffs. It's just hard to get in the AFC altogether. You go through that roster. Of course, he's good with Luck and LaSure. Quarterback and halfback. He needs some. I think he needs some infusion at receiver. T.Y. Hilton and Moncrief are starting to get up there. Wouldn't surprise me to go receiver early on. He signed to Kelsey, which he's still hanging in there somehow. And then you look at the line, the old left tackle. He's getting old. I want to look at that right guard definitely. Going through there. D-line's not bad. Linebacker could use an upgrade a little bit there. I know you like speed at the linebacking core for the type of defense he plays. Those guys could be upgraded a little bit. Yeah, secondary corner for sure. And then may want to look at a safety. Although this guy did a good job last year. Remember, he got a pick 6 against me. So there's a couple different ways the Colts can go. They have the 14th pick in the first round, and I think he's going to use that on a playmaker. Just my gut feeling there. All right, Cowboys. Oh yeah, we forgot that the Texans switched to the Cowboys. So let's take a look. He did have Kaiser, which I don't know if he's happy with him or not. Of course, Elliott's good. Could use another receiver, I think. Maybe another playmaker to pair with Jerron Jones. Tight end, he did sign Safarian Jenkins, but I don't know if you're happy with that. Of course, the Cowboys O-line is still pretty good. I think you'll be fine there. And you look at D-line, left end's good, right end's alright. J.J. Watt's still holding on. D-tackle, D-line's pretty good. And then that Blair Garrett was a rookie of the year a couple of years ago, so he's a good player. Smith, of course, is great in the middle. Could use a little upgrade over there, right outside backer. Corners are pretty good. And then safety, you could use an upgrade at free safety. So the Cowboys are still a pretty good team. They got the 5th overall pick in the first round to add to that roster. A little better roster than he had with the Texans. I think he is a Cowboys fan. That's why he switched. So I'm always glad to see people with their hometown teams sticking with them. All right, we got the Dolphins, who lost in the divisional round to the Chargers in a very memorable game if you watched it. You go through this roster, he signed Deshaun Watson to be his starting quarterback. Of course, Sullivan won the Rookie of the Year, won a lot of awards. Good job for him. Then he's got 2 fullbacks. 2 fullback offense. All right. Don't know if he needs a receiver the way he plays. He's pretty run first. Minifield's a beast at tight end. And then you keep going through it. He did a good job building the offensive line. Don't think you really need help there. Maybe a little depth, that's all. You look at the D lineman, could upgrade at right end a little bit, or maybe D tackle. The linebackers he remade into a 3-4 that's tough to go against. Corners are pretty good, maybe a little more depth there. I could see a second round, third rounder maybe for that. And then at safety, he did a good job there building those guys. So it's a pretty good team overall. There's a couple little holes he could go fill. 25th pick in the first round. He is not drafting tonight, though. So he'll miss out on that. But he usually sets his draft board. And I know last year his draft board did a really good job. So I still expect to see some good picks from the Dolphins as a result of that. All right, the Eagles are not drafting tonight. They lost in the NFC Championship game to the 49ers. This is another very good roster here, and once you go through it, you'll see that he doesn't need a ton of help. Strickland is rated low, but he is a beast. He runs really well with him, and I believe he won the Running Back of the Year award in the NFC. It's all the speed you ever wanted here at receiver. Definitely don't think the CPU takes a receiver. He will take a tight end, but this is not a tight end draft. This tight end draft is probably the worst I've ever seen in Madden. So you need help there, but he's just got the one speed guy right now. He's done a good job in improving that offensive line. It used to be a weakness. It's now a strength. And then you look at his defense, could use some help at right end. Hopefully the CPU will pick that because that's what he really needs. I think he's pretty good everywhere else on defense. Could use an upgrade at the linebacker spot, but he uses those guys really well, so don't be fooled by the ratings because he's an excellent user. The corners, you're in a good spot at corner. And then safety, he's in a good spot as well. So we picked out a couple spots the Eagles can go. Doesn't have a pick to the third round, so hopefully the CPU will get him a couple sleepers. At that point, setting your draft board is probably just a waste unless you're just a mad nut. And people have better things to do with their lives, so I'm pretty sure he didn't do that. Falcons. Jeff had a unusually off year. He's usually in the playoffs every year, but he couldn't make it this year. But he still has a very talented roster, as you guys know, and he made a trade. And I told the Packers don't trade with the Falcons, but yet he traded with the Falcons. So we'll look at that after this. But he's set at quarterback, of course. And the trade involved a running back, so maybe he'll take a running back in the draft. We'll see what happens. And then, of course, at receiver, he's still, pretty good, at least with the starters. Julio is still there. He still catches a lot, but you see he's slowing down in terms of acceleration, so you could see a receiver being taken there. He signed Jordan Reed. I had Jordan Reed last year. Jordan Reed wasn't getting the separation I like at tight end. If you just want him to catch and fall down, he's good at that, so maybe that's what his plan is. And then you go through the offensive line. Could use some help at left guard. He's getting pretty old. Then you jump to the D-line. McKinley is a beast, and then Beasley on the other side. Jeff gets a lot of sacks because he does use the D-line, and he's got very talented guys up front so they can get off and get quick pressure. Linebacker could use an upgrade at left outside linebacker as Campbell's getting older. Kind of the same thing with Kendricks, but I think he plays Williams, who's in a pretty good spot there. And then at DB, you need some depth at corner. The starters are really good. No safety. And then strong safety. We could move one of those guys to free, but I think in this draft, you'll find some help at safety that you like, just from what I've done in scouting. So a couple ways the Falcons can go. He's got the 10th pick from Green Bay in that trade I mentioned, and then the 18th pick of his own in the first round. And then more. Come on, Green Bay, really? Y'all don't listen. Y'all gonna learn the hard way. You're gonna learn. All right, who's next? All right, NFC champion 49ers. He has a really good roster. Lost to the Browns in the Super Bowl in a very good game. Of course, Lepsis is the franchise quarterback. He let his running back go, so he could draft a running back, or he could just take one of these guys and run willy-nilly, which might just happen. Very good at receiver spots and needs some depth. He signed Eifert in free agency to go with Mr. Howard right there. And then his offensive line is very good all around. Then you look at the D-line. Solomon Thomas has been killing people the last few years. Of course, he's been awesome. And then Blake has been moved to defensive end because he signed a linebacker that I tried to get. But anyways, the D tackles are good. And then the linebackers are going to be fast, and they'll be good across the board. And then corners, you look at that. This is probably the best three-corner combination in the league right there. And then safety could use a little help, but you could move somebody there. Well, you can play these two guys, Nelly and Douglas, at the safety spots. So, very good roster. They have the 30th pick from the Eagles, and then they're on at 31, so they have back-to-back picks in the first and second rounds to supplement the talent already on the roster. All right, you got the Giants. The Giants are not drafting, but we'll take a quick look through their roster anyway. He's good at the QB spot. Ajayi is still holding on at that running back spot with Hill, although he's looking for a running back, but he hadn't made that move just yet. Pretty good at receiver. Could use a speed guy to go with Beckham, I think. Ingram's good at tight end, needs some depth. And then going through the line is pretty good overall. Right guard, could use an upgrade. And then D-line, he could help the D-line a little bit. Well, he needs some linebackers. They have no left outside linebackers. Corners aren't bad, and safety, he's all right. Andrew Adams has won a couple of awards, so he does a good job in using those guys. The CPU has the 22nd pick in the first round to use at his disposal, and usually the Giants don't draft well, so hopefully it'll be better this year for them. All right, Jaguars. Jaguars lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Browns, matter of fact, yeah. So you can take a look at their roster. It might be time for another quarterback because those guys have been a problem. Leonard Fournette, of course, is the heartbeat of the offense. He does a really good job down there. Allen Robinson and Westbrook, both really good receivers for those guys. And he's got some other guys behind them that do a good job. Whittington at tight end's an awesome guy. And then his offensive line, left guard needs some help. Center could use some help. The other three spots are pretty good. And then D-line, got some young guys there. He could use an upgrade. Linebackers are usually very good. Miles Jack, he uses him a lot, and he does a good job with them. And then his DBs are really good. These guys right here can freaking lock it down with that speed right there and their coverage ability. Safety could be an upgrade. At free safety, Josh Jones at strong does a good job. So he has the 21st pick in the first round. I don't know if Kyle's going to make it or not, but we'll see. Let's jump to the next team. New York Jets. Take a look. Stafford is still hanging in there, but might be time to get a new guy. He signed Christie in free agency. Christie's the former running back of the 49ers, and I'm sure he's going to use him a good bit. I think he paid pretty good money for him. Of course, Robbie Anderson's the guy you got to stop when you play the Jets. He's got some other guys there that are decent. Spivey at tight end is starting to develop into a pretty good player. And then you look through that offensive line. Not bad. They do all right. Pretty good overall. And then D-line, he's got some guys that can be a problem, although he could use an upgrade at that right end spot right there. D-tackle is decent. He's always looking for linebackers. I know that. Might want to get a left outside linebacker, but those other guys are pretty good. Upgrade at corner for sure. And safety. So it might be some secondary picks going on for the Jets early on. He's got the 12th pick in the first round to make a splash. All right, the Lions. The old Packers owner has switched to the Lions. We know the Lions have a really good roster. Just going through it, we know Brad Carr's been like the 4-time league MVP somehow. He did manage to re-sign Lee Hadnot in free agency, which was nice to see. This is my old fullback, the Mack Truck. I let him go because of his speed. He has great blocking ability, and I put him at the tight end spot more so than anywhere else. Or if he runs the backside zone cutoff, his impact block is good on that. But as just a straight fullback, he's too slow to get to the hole for the guys I use. Of course, they're good at receiver. They need some depth behind those 3 studs. Ebron is a beast at tight end. You know, his line's going to be pretty good. This is still a really good roster. Definitely need a D end at both spots. Good gracious. And D tackle. So that D line needs attention in the draft. He's going to have a mid-round pick because they just missed the playoffs after the old Lions owner was released of his duties. Could use some help at strong safety as well. So the little kinks in the armor coming up for the Lions, but they do have a 19th pick in the first round to kind of build back. We have a new Packers owner. Welcome to him. He did make the trade, so he doesn't have a first or second round pick. Now, I will say it's smart to trade your picks when you come in and you haven't been able to scout. But I wouldn't have traded with Jeff. But anyways, quick look through the roster. The quarterback is pretty good in Mensis. He did trade for Devontae Freeman, which he was looking for a running back, but trading for a 30-year-old running back, man, I don't know. I don't know about that. Receivers are pretty good. Tight end, he did sign Greg Olsen as probably a stopgap, which was smart because there's no real good tight ends in this draft. I'll just tell you that now, unless I'm missing something in scouting. Offensive line could use an upgrade at left guard and center and right guard. The tackles are pretty good. Could definitely use some help on the D line at the left end spot. D tackles are decent. Linebackers are okay. I can see an infusion of some young talent there. Your starting corners are not bad. Not bad. Safeties aren't bad either. So they have some talent there. And like I said, they made that trade with the Falcons. And so their first pick will not be until the third round, pick 74 as a result. All right, the Panthers. Panthers are a pretty good team. Also, they re-signed Cam Newton, who I was also trying to sign in free agency. Anyways, at least he's going to start there in Carolina, which is fine with me. McCaffrey's a beast at running back and does a good job with him. They have a lot of speed at receiver. Don't know. They might need a possession guy to kind of offset that a little bit. Definitely upgraded tight end, but there's none in the draft. Their offensive line is pretty good overall. And then you look at the D-line, not bad. Well, they get their pass rush from the linebackers. And I hope he moves Kuechly back. Well, 80 speed, I don't know. I don't know about him being at the end, but we'll see. D tackles are pretty good. And then his linebackers, Evans is a beast coming off the edge. They do a good job with this group. They could use an upgrade at right outside backer, or they could move Kuechly back to outside backer. Or they could move Shaq outside and put Kuechly in the middle. That's what I would do in this case, but I'm not the Panthers. Corners are not bad, I would say. He signed Sherman, and he's playing safety. With those numbers, he could be okay there. I could see that. And then Joseph at strong, of course, a trade from a couple years ago. He's in a good spot there. They also have the 20th pick in the first round. They just missed out on the playoffs in the NFC. All right, Patriots. The Patriots have the first pick. I did not know that. Hopefully, Jeff will be here to draft. I'm sure if he knows that, I hope he knows. If he does know, he'll be excited about that. But this is a Patriots fan, so, he's going to stick by any original Patriots here. So Garoppolo, he traded for Dalvin Cook a couple years back. Receivers aren't bad. I think you're in a good spot there. He still has Gronk, although he's slowed down to 73 speed. Good gracious. But there's no tight end worth taking high in the draft. Definitely could use some offensive line help, though. That's the big thing that sticks out here. Those guys are pretty old and they're not the greatest. D-line help for sure could be used here. D-tackle depth, definitely linebackers. Good gracious. 73 speed, 78. I mean, 78's okay, but yeah, he needs some help at linebacker, man. Could use some help at corner. Free, yeah, you need help there. Strong, yeah. So in a case like this, I would tell the Patriots to trade out a number one for multiple picks, but we don't have much time left before the draft now. So if you're listening, Jeff, or if you're around, man, you need to trade out and get multiple picks. You need help in a lot of places. All right, Raiders. We have a new Raiders owner. Welcome, appreciate it. I know nothing about you except Ramon added you, so I'm trusting that you're a good dude. But I'm glad the Raiders have an owner. You look through the roster here, Mannion's decent. I don't think you need necessarily a quarterback right now. Running back, this Richards was an early pick, and, he's okay. I'd try him out and then see, how it goes before I pick somebody. Some depth at receiver. I think your first couple guys are all right. That tight end was one of the boost players, so he's, not bad now. The Raiders have been needing offensive line help for a while, and it has to happen. You've got to have some offensive line help. D-line help too. Going through that, yeah, definitely. Khalil Mack, of course, makes any defense a lot better. You got some pretty good players there, though, at linebacker to help out. Corners, your corners are pretty good between Conley and Dawkins on the outside. Those guys are good. And then you need some help at the safety spot for sure. So the Raiders will have the 9th pick, good pick, in the first round to get some help for that roster. All right, moving right along. The Rams, CPU team. The guy that was going to be the Rams switched to the Chiefs, so we won't waste any time on them. Excuse me. Ravens, CPU team as well. We won't waste time on them. Redskins. All right, take a look. Crew has been developing as the franchise quarterback. Could use some help at running back for sure. Need a playmaker at running back, really. Could use a dynamic receiver. He's got some guys with some speed, but they're just little guys. I think a dynamic receiver would be good here. They need help at tight end like most teams. Take a look at this line. Could use some help at left guard, center. The other lineman positions are good. Some depth at D-line. Starters are not bad, for sure. Linebackers are not bad. We could use a little bit of upgrade. He did sign Walker. He was a former Bill in free agency that to help that depth. That's a good move there. Corners are not bad. I think you're all right there. Free safety is definitely not bad, and then strong, you're all right. So, they have some good pieces, but they play in a tough division with the Giants and the Eagles over there. So it's hard to kind of break through. But I think the roster is not in a bad spot. You make the right pick at 13, get a dynamic threat either at running back or receiver, and your offense is going to be a step closer to being something that can threaten in the division for sure. All right, the Saints, who made the playoffs last year, they won a first-round game over the Cardinals and then lost in the second round, the divisional round, to the Eagles. He signed these two guys in free agency, and Anton Little and Terrell Collins, and that definitely gives them a strength in a couple of spots. Definitely need a quarterback. They've been looking after Drew Brees, and they still haven't found one. I think there are a couple guys in this draft you can get to help that quarterback spot. Pretty good at receiver, I would say. Don't need help there. He got drafted a good tight end last year in Swan Cut. That was a good job there. Little at left tackle we just talked about. Need a center for sure. Don't have to take a center early. There's some good depth there in the draft. Dropping draft nuggets if you're watching. D-line's not bad. You can get by with that. His linebackers are pretty good, and that's the heartbeat of that defense. And then his corners, you look at Collins and Lattimore, what a pair. Good gracious. And then you got these two guys behind him with good depth at corner. Free safety's pretty good. And then Strong has got a young guy, but you could upgrade there too. But Saints are not in a bad spot. And they got the 26th pick in the first round to go along with that. All right, the Seahawks are not drafting, but this is Ben's team. We'll take a quick look. Pretty good at quarterback with Neal. Doesn't need a running back. Going through. I'd say he's all right at. For his offense, he's good at wide receiver. He doesn't use those guys that much. Good at tight end. Line's not bad. Could use an upgrade at right guard. But the rest of those guys are good. D-line is not bad. Could use some depth. And his linebackers are pretty good. The way Ben plays, this team is built and still in a pretty good fashion on the defensive side of football. I think you just get offensive lineman because he's good in a lot of places on that defense, and his defense is what makes it tick. So he's got the 17th pick in the first round. We'll see if the CPU picks somebody to accentuate that offense. Steelers with a rare playoff non-appearance, but they still have a really good roster. Josh Dobbs, of course. Le'Veon Bell still at 30 is going strong, as you can tell. Need some receivers, definitely. That's where he should focus on in the draft. Offensive line doesn't have a tackle. Offensive line, I think he lost some guys to the re-sign period. But D-lineman, you can move one of these guys to the left end spot. Still has some pieces. Dupree, of course, is really good. Shazier is a beast. Then T.J. Watt, that linebacking core is really tough. Needs some depth at corner. And then safety, he's got a couple young guys, but he does a good job in developing those guys. So a little bit of a bounce back year for the Steelers. And they have the 16th pick in the first round. All right, Texans are a CPU team. We're down to our last two teams. Titans, Cody's team, had a good run to end the season. Hopefully that'll parlay that going forward into a playoff appearance once again. Let's see. Been with Mariota the whole time. He's going to stick with him. He likes Henry and Whitted. That's been a pretty good run combination for him. At receiver, Davis and Taylor are tough on the outside. Gilbert's not bad. Could use some depth there maybe. Smith at tight end's been a good asset. And then you look at that offensive line. Lacoste could be an upgrade at center. But the rest of those guys are pretty good. D-line could use some depth there. Doesn't have any right ends, but you go through the linebackers. Linebackers are pretty good, even though Preston Brown is slowing down a little bit. He uses the linebacker, so he could move somebody there with a little more speed at the middle if he wanted to. Not bad at corner. And then safety could be an upgrade position as well. So they're not in a bad spot, and that division has kind of gone up and down a little bit the past couple of years, so you never know what you're going to get. And he's got the 15th pick in the first round to make a difference. All right, and our last team we're going to look at are the Vikings. Vikings were knocked out of the playoffs in the divisional round by the 49ers. He's got a really talented roster overall. I don't see a lot of places where he needs to upgrade. To be honest with you, he's got a little bit of everything on here. Maybe offensive line, once you start going through it, could be an upgrade position. But his skill positions are pretty good on offense. And then you go through the defense. D-line's not bad. Could use another D-tackle. This is a pretty decent draft for D-tackle, I would say. We signed a couple linebackers in free agency. Could use an upgrade at right outside backer. His corners are pretty good. I think some of those guys are going to move to safety. But his safeties are in a good space as well. So they don't have anything but a third round pick starting out. So that's what we got there. So that's all the teams. Hopefully you guys will take some advice. I know some people did listen last year and it helped. Some of you didn't. and some of you found yourself in the same spot. So we still do have 3 teams open in the Ravens, the Buccaneers, and the Rams. So if you do know somebody that wants to join, that'd be great. Going into season 6, we had a little talk earlier. If you guys want to keep going, I'm cool with that, because, as long as the activity level is reflective of the activity, in the, league, I'll be glad to keep it going. But, if we kind of slow down, we'll kind of, assess ourselves at the end of season 6. So you guys control it is what I'm saying. If you want to keep going, let's be active. Let's be in the chat, make your moves, post on the blogs, so forth and so on. That stuff would be great. But, if we're not active, then, we'll reassess at the end of season 6. As far as the draft goes, no time limit in the first round. Starting in the second round, you have a 1-minute time limit to make your pick. Please do so in that timely fashion. That is enforced. And please let me know if you leave the draft and you're done. Okay, so we can keep things moving along for those that do want to draft. After the draft, we'll have some time to adjust your roster. Please make note of the position change rules in the rules section. And then after the draft, we'll go to preseason week 1. Injuries will be off. You can play your preseason game if you want. This year, there is no limit on free agents. So please sign all the free agents you want to. We're doing that because getting toward the end of things here with this Madden, I'm not going to be as strict on that. Get what you need for your roster. And it's kind of a reward if you are here for the draft. And then preseason advances will be tomorrow. And then we'll start season 6 at midnight tomorrow night. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it.